Right, guys, what a day. Just finished my training session and after a half an hour gap, got to taking an interview. It's really special because across my series of guests, this is the first guest from Africa, Mr. Aaron Tariku, who's from Ethiopia. Now, I was mesmerized by his journey because he is an example of what passion for football can do for you. He had to retire early, very, very early, and then went on to university, but decided to become a university dropout because he wanted to do something in football. And he became an analyst. Now, becoming an analyst may not be very mesmerizing, but what's mesmerizing is that historically, he's the third analyst in the history of Ethiopian football. So, in this wonderful chat, he told me about how nobody took him seriously because no one really understood what analysis is all about. He gave live examples, and he also spoke about how, because of the lack of development, I would say, as with a lot of nations in football, he's found it challenging. And then he went on to create his own football club. So he's done some really, really amazing things in his journey so far, and I really recommend that you listen in because he's also educated me very well about what Ethiopian football is all about, what the youth structure is like, what the professional structure is like. So I'm sure you're going to enjoy this. Tune in. So today we have a very special guest, someone who's based in Ethiopia, Mr. Aaron Tariku. Some mad achievements, gone from being an amateur coach to the top of the Ethiopian Premier League. He's been a university dropout, but still gone on to the upper echelons of the pyramid, and the third ever analyst in Ethiopian football. Pleasure having you. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. Glad to have you. So why don't we hear it from you yourself? You have gone from the being an amateur coach to the Ethiopian Premier League as an analyst. So can you tell me about your journey?
Yeah. Okay, I would be thrilled to. It all started with me wanting to go pro as a footballer. So I had that ambition in me, and uh, I had to put that dream on hold when I went to university to study mechanical engineering. So uh, but let's say after a year I came to the realization that I wanted to chase that childhood dream that I planned to go pro. So I came back home, I dropped out, I was trying to go pro, I'm doing everything, I was searching for trials abroad, and I was training to 1 2 times per day at the gym with the team. But unfortunately that didn't work out for me the way I planned to. But at the end of the day, I got so much information and knowledge that I was helping players around me at the time in the team. So uh, something about trainings. When you train, you train in your perspective, let's say the way you watch the game.
Yeah.
So I watch the game, I watch myself. So I always try to, let's say, analyze informally to better myself. So there is that ambition, there is that the way I see the game. So I think that pushed me to start a club, which was not a pleasant journey, to be honest. But at the end of the day, I got the license, and I had the pleasure to coach that team for a year before I moved to a Premier League side where I work now.
From what I understand, your entire journey has been fueled by passion for this beautiful game, and it's made you do some crazy stuff
Yes,
with it.
yes.
Yeah. So now, having gone from being a university dropout, you have gone to the top of the
Honest,
Ethiopian.
if
Yeah.
uh
Yeah, you have gone from being a university dropout to the top of Ethiopian football. So what are
I'm sorry. Continue, please.
Yeah, I was saying that you have gone from being a university dropout to the top of Ethiopian football. So,
Mhm.
what are some secrets to your success?
The first one would be an ambition, because there are days where you would work without fruits. There
Yeah.
are some battles you fight, and the only thing you would come out of it is with a better knowledge, nothing else. I think you have to accept that when you try to chase your passion, especially I am, let's say, one of the few analysts in the country. I didn't know if there was anyone working in that field, to be honest, when I started. And fun fact as well, when I was uh, trying to get a license for my club. Even most clubs, almost all clubs in this country, are funded by the government, by sport commissions. So when I went to the office and to get my license, they were like, what are you trying to do? There is no club. We don't have even a platform to give you license on. So when you are trying to walk down that road, you have to know that it will cost you a lot, and sometimes you just get out of it with a better knowledge and understanding of your surroundings. So you have to keep in mind and just keep working. I think it will come.
It's crazy to,
That's the secret.
it's really crazy to imagine that, with how analysis has progressed in world football, you're the only the third analyst in an entire country. So when you got in as an analyst, how did clubs and coaches and players, how did they look forward to the fact of having an analyst coming in? How did they approach it?
Uh, yeah, that was a pleasant, a good experience with. Let's say it was a bittersweet. Let's just put it that way. It wasn't all fun. It wasn't let's say all joyful, but there are things you would learn from it, especially as an uh, let's say I work in third world country. We don't have the best equipment. We don't play the best football. So everything you do in this type of league, you have to be flexible. You have to be able to understand the coaches. You have to be able to understand the players, their minds, because you are trying to imprint something into their minds. So you have to be flexible, even not even from footballing point of view, even from their, let's say, personal viewpoint of view. So you need to understand their personality as well.
Yeah.
So my first struggle would be trying to understand my environment. So it took me quite a lot to adjust, but let's say I figured it out, and I did all right for my first year, which was last season.
Well, interesting. I mean, there's something to really note over here, that you don't want to get on the wrong side of players, like you really want to understand them. So I'm sure that helps you. But why don't you tell me? I am intrigued to know, what does your daily life look like, being the third ever analyst in Ethiopia? Something that's really unique. What does your daily life look like? Yeah, training on match day.
Uh, Last season, I would say my involvement is a little bit on the low side,
Okay.
because of when I came in, I was 23 years old with no footballing background. Nobody is taking me seriously, to be honest. I did my part. I fought my fight. I won the battles I won, and let's say they accepted me as one of their own. But I was not being taken seriously at top level, let's say. But now it's a little bit different. Now this season I'm working with a European coach, which is very interesting, and he had given me, let's say, a role where I involve quite a lot, even in trainings. So I am developing, let's say, partially as a coach as well. So I am very close to the coach now. I understand, let's say, the way he plays, the way he wants to train the team, and he gave me an opportunity to develop, let's say, as a professional. So my daily activity would include everything you would think a close person to a coach does every day. Maybe I prepare uh, I prepare analysis for opposition. We watch those videos, let's say 2-3 times per week, and we also watch our videos, our games, which could sometimes include our trainings as well, which we film. Uh, there are a lot of things you do in between,
Yeah.
so I get involved quite a lot this season. Let's say, yeah.
Well, you mentioned something interesting that people didn't take you seriously. Of course, two aspects. One, that you're only 23, and two, people didn't really understand what analysis is. So maybe you don't want to take names, but can you like give examples of situations where you found it hard?
Uh, let's say there are multiple occasions, like I cannot even, let's say, count with my
Maybe
two
interesting
hands
one.
where
Maybe the most
coaches
interesting one.
didn't. Yeah. This one is very repetitive, so I will tell you this one. There are situations where the coaches didn't see at all my videos,
Wow.
and they, let's say, expect for me to present the players. And even there are sometimes where I would do the videos and break everything down, and the players are set to see, let's say, 90 minutes of the game, which is really boring to the players, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
uh, there are those situations which are really funny, and I think this one might be the funniest.
Yeah.
One coach, I cannot name
Yeah.
names, but he said, uh, let's say, quite at the end of the year, he was leaving and stuff like that, and he said, you actually do like those things. We were speaking about specific things about the video, and he was surprised someone does it abroad, and I was doing it all year. And I told him I have been doing those things all season for you. I've been giving you materials. And he said, oh, you were doing that. And it broke me, to be honest. It
Yeah.
really broke me. So yeah, those things happen.
Well, I'm sure now that you have got you have got a European coach and all that stuff, so it's definitely going to change now as time passes. But I also would like to know that what kind is there any specific software you use? How what is your method of analyzing matches?
uh yeah, there is a software I have decided on this year. I have been juggling few, let's say, for the past a year and a half. Even as an analyst, like, you get used to some things, and you start to see their faults and their shortcomings. So you always want to upgrade. Considering that now I am using once video analysis software, so I would say it is fairly a good software. So, but when I started, I didn't have, let's say, club paying money for the softwares. So I was using Longo Match for brief amount of time, which was not fun, to be honest, because of, let's say, limitations. It doesn't have chroma and stuff like that. But yeah.
Interesting. Yes, I mean I've heard similar reviews of the software. Now coming to a bit going away from the analysis
Mhm.
part. So you have done unique stuff all your life, right? From dropping out of university to pursue football to becoming an analyst when it's unheard of. Now what I have not heard of is an analyst then going and starting his own football club. You're the founder of Alpha Football Club, if I'm not mistaken. So now what triggered a move like this?
Yeah. Uh, that was actually, let's say, the dream after even growing up. uh, my little cousins, I grew up with my cousins. I would let them study. I would teach them mathematics and everything. For some reason, I'm known in the family to be a good teacher. So I had that in the back of my mind, that I am good interacting with people. So even if I am meant to go pro, I would still, let's say, play with the idea of going to be a coach.
Yeah.
So this everything started, let let's say everything started maybe after a year
Yeah.
of dropping out from university. So I was uh, I was I was working with some people. It started with me working out with my own and trying to, let's say, work with some other players in my team.
Yeah.
So they were really impressed with my knowledge of the game. They were really impressed with the way I work with other people. So I had that dream of coaching. So I said maybe this is coming a little bit quicker than I thought. So I said, why not invest, let's say, pretty much everything I had in my pocket at that time, which was a big risk. Yeah, there are still debts I have to pay from that time. To be honest, it was not the most fun part of this journey, but I invested everything I had in my account, and then uh, I tried to get the license. I coached the team for uh, a year, a little bit over a year, and the team, some of the players got a chance to play in other clubs, and there are still players I coach. And yeah, that was the journey. It started with me playing and interacting with people. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I resonate with you on one thing. So even I have a football club, and being in debt looks like a very normal thing with everyone who has a football club, for sure. But did when you say that your players when are now with other clubs, did you is there like a transfer fee system
Yeah.
that you could benefit from, or free? Like did they just leave from your club to another?
Yeah, the funniest part, I think you would have a crack out of this. Even in the Ethiopian Premier League, teams, when they sign players, you don't get a fee. Players go to their clubs and, let's say, break their ties with the club and go to another club. So basically, even the big clubs are not getting money. But if you are lucky, working in under 20, under 17, you would get, let's say, some amount of money here and there, but I don't think it's not something you would be able to rely on.
Understandable. Yeah, I mean that was the case where I am in India, but it's gradually changing now. So now I just want to understand Ethiopian football a bit better. So what is the youth structure like for what is youth football like in Ethiopia? What are the pathways for them to then go and become a professional footballer?
Uh, there are two stages, age groups, where youths play: under 17 and under 20. There is also, of course, there is under 15. But let's say under 15 is not looked upon so much. Let's just keep it at that. And
Yeah.
even under 17, not so much, but it is most focused on under 20s,
Yeah.
so which is just a level below the first team. Teams with a good project, and let's say, even not a good project, teams that are trying to get used to their first team, because of in Ethiopia you have to like pay players exaggerated amount of money to sign them. So clubs nowadays, they just want to, let's say, keep uh, their their resources saved as much as possible. So they try to focus on youth players, but it is forced. It's forced. So it's not a very good system, but there is something in place where youths can go through. Uh, but there are also a lot of difficulties because of, let's say, uh, coaches favorism, yeah, and something like that. So you always suffer through things. I would assume that is an issue throughout the globe,
Yeah.
but you have to fight those things as well.
So then what other big problems do footballers and the nation as a whole face in terms of football developing in Ethiopia?
I would say there is no clear projects, even as a club and even as a country. Uh, there is maybe a rushed jobs being done, and some players that are, let's say, which had a good mind and that have been focused and that has been working on themselves, they will get a chance. But there is no clear projects clubs worked on from U13, even U11. You won't find those projects. I don't even think coaches that are at that level that are working with kids get enough credits, enough education in licensing to develop themselves. So one, the coaches are not credited enough, and two, it's not given even enough attention to be able to use the players we have, because everything is rushed. Nobody is giving you credit, nobody is giving you resources. So whenever the player that worked hard for that opportunity arises, they just take the player. But yeah, that's basically it.
This is something that we had faced in India as well up till I think 2010. So I can kind of understand what you mean. Now, fortunately, things have changed, and I'm sure it's going to change in the future with how every country is making progress in football. So yeah, this was fantastic. But before we end this, I want to know what is the next crazy thing you're going to do? Like, what's your plan for the future in football?
uh I mean, it's I'm not going to say everything, to be honest, because there are some things that are really crazy, really big, that would make me seem a little bit crazy, like out of mind. So I won't give you details, but I would love to go to coaching, and I'm currently working on to attain UEFA licenses. I'm working currently towards gaining my UEFA C. I already got a regional license from Germany, so that is that. But let's say through the channel of coaching, I have a brief plan to work on development,
Yeah.
and even there are still side projects I'm working on. I'm juggling on even performance analysis, and even as a club level with the clubs I have. But I would definitely see myself in few years being a coach and fully pledging my projects, my visions into that sector.
Sounds good. I think right now you're being very modest about your plans, but I'm sure it's going to be big with all the revolutionary things you have done so far. So that brings us to the end of this wonderful chat, and I think you've really given a brilliant insight into what Ethiopian football is like. And while I may say while I may say that a lot of what you do is crazy, it takes a lot of courage and a lot. You really need to be special, do things that are unorthodox to achieve what
Yeah.
you're. So fantastic.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I really appreciate the opportunity even to get a chance to speak to you. I'm kind of an introvert, so it's really a good way for me to connect with people around the globe. So I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak with me, and thank you. I really appreciate this moment.
It
Thank
was
you.
wonderful, wonderful having you, and I really hope to have you again, perhaps in the next year once you have done something that's again out of the box, and to educate footballers, coaches, everyone around the world who's listening. Thank you so much for being a part.